Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, it was quite a doozy, at least for me. I'm thinking, hey, I'm the arms warrior. I'm jumping into 2v2. There's an Unholy Deathknight on the other team. Easy peasy, easy game, easy life. I'm just going to be walking through this. But I ended up more of a, why are you so mad? By the end of this game, because this Unholy Deathknight was the first one, maybe the only one even left in the game, but still rocked my world. It made me wonder if Unholy DK is even bad at the moment or not meta at the moment with this build in particular. So while we're running through this game, I'm just going to be talking you through my horrifying experience of the receiving end of an Unholy Deathknight. Now, we all know 9.1.5 has now got a release date being November 2nd. So if you're looking to pick up some alts or try out some different covenants, seems like that patch is going to be the time to do it. So this is one of the specs that might have grabbed my attention at least a little bit here. With the Unholy Deathknight, because it's really not often that I see this specialization. It might be something like 1 out of 500 games, maybe even less than that overall, but it just did such an overwhelming amount of damage that I couldn't believe it. This might be attributed to the fact that it's in 2v2 and there's dampening, like heavy amount of dampening, so sustained damage is actually more valuable because healing is reduced, whereas in 3 versus 3 arena, because there is no dampening right away, healing is more valuable and you need burst damage to kill somebody in 2 seconds before they can heal themselves to full with 1 heal. But in 2s, when dampening is stacked so high, the Unholy Deathknight actually feels like quite a powerhouse. So if you're wondering how to maybe unlock some elite transmog for Death Knight, or you just really wanted to pick it up and where it shined in PvP, seems like the 2v2 bracket's going to be where you want to go. So here I'm thinking I'm playing Warrior Shaman. I'm playing one of the best 2v2 comps in the game. I'm going to be able to pretty easily run down this team. I think I wasn't even looking at the screen at the time when the start of this game started. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the Death Knight. Let's start this. All right, this will be easy. We throw our Earth Elemental out with the Earth Elemental Legendary. I'm thinking like we're going to get this. But they activate their Hell Chains, so that orange laser beam is going to be kind of the scary time whenever you're seeing an Unholy Deathknight. They get power infused with their Abomination's Limb. And I think the power infusion scaling up all of their haste effects allowed them to really just tear into me. I mean, I've got Die by the Sword up throughout all of this. I'm sitting in D stance. I've utilized Rallying Cry. I intervened to my ally to try and escape. I think I even end up using an Emergency Fear, but the damage was really quite endless. Even Spirit Link Totem connects on me and didn't seem like it did too much. So I've pretty much pressed every defensive cooldown in my arsenal, almost go down. I'm saved by this clutch ascendance at like 1% remaining health. And I think it was the power infusion really attributing to it, the increased amount of damage that this Death Knight was doing. But here you go, power infusion's over. I'm still at 10%. This is not very often that you see this, right? Because in WoW PvP at the moment, it's either you're 100% health or you're dead. You're never really spending too much time below 100% or above dead. But against this Death Knight, I was edging, near death basically the entire game, despite sitting in defensive stance, trying to kite, trying to scare the Death Knight away, utilizing Sharpened Blade, trying to max out my damage with Warbreaker. I wasn't really able to make too much of a dent, even with all of my aggressive cooldowns and having survived their initial wave or their initial assault. But we managed to slowly recover. However, slowly recover might be short-lived. Now I'm thinking, okay, maybe that was just a one-off. Maybe it was just, maybe my healer under-responded or something. They could have done something better. The DK's cooldowns are over. It's time to kill the Holy Priest. This shouldn't be too hard. It is still a Death Knight, right? So while going after the Holy Priest, Death Knight's making it really difficult, gripping me multiple times, keeping Chains of Ice on me. It's really important that I was keeping Hamstring up or Piercing Howl as a slow. And right here, I have a choice to go behind the pillar and chase the priest and line my healer, or stay on the Death Knight. And because I see that red-orange laser beam going between the pet of the Death Knight and the Death Knight, I know the Death Knight wants to ramp up some damage. So instead of going behind the pillar, I'm just going to stay on this side and attack the Death Knight. And you can see here they've activated Apocalypse. And it seems like Apocalypse is when their damage starts to get a little bit crazy. Here my Shaman gets a nice Hex on the Death Knight, so the Death Knight can't attack me in that Hex, so I'm just going to attack the other target. I don't want to break that because this Death Knight is really spooky, and I don't want to deal with him while his cooldowns are up. As soon as he comes out of the Hex, I want to Stormbolt, and I want to swap some damage, but then I get stunned, and I get stunned right when I went into battle, and I went into battle because I was going to stun the Death Knight, and now it's like, okay, well, I was in battle for 2 seconds. Sorry. I'm not doing that again. I can't disrespect the Death Knight. And I'm still at half health at this point, just basically struggling to stabilize, which is really unusual in PvP at the moment. So this Unholy Deathknight was at this point really kind of almost selling me on the spec. I'm thinking like, how am I going to get aggressive? Like I want to be in there. I want to stop that Fleshcraft. I don't want him to reset his shields, because the next time we see that power infusion, the next time we see that abomination limb come off cooldown, I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to survive. Here you can see they've activated the apocalypse. So is this when the damage is really going to start to sink into me is the question. They're rotting me down to half. Maybe we're starting to battle back. But now I see my healer in a stun, and I'm thinking, oh no, is what just happened at the start of the game about to happen a second time for me here? I go for my Warbreaker. I try and scare the Death Knight away with damage, but I'm just not able to. Priest is just free casting, able to reset a lot of Chastise stuns. So I break out of the Chastise, and I use Die by the Sword. And that's because my healer got interrupted. They've used their Hell Chains. You can see that with the orange laser beam. But they go for another round of Apocalypse. And I'm not sure if it's conduits or something that's reducing the cooldown of it, but it seems like getting that Apocalypse quite frequently, or at least a lot more frequently than a lot of other cooldowns. So in this position, I'm just kind of cleaving multiple targets with Bladestorm. Probably would have been better off running away because that power infusion is coming off cooldown, and that's where the combo, I think, is about to hit me again. Priest utilizes Mind Games. We dispel that off so that we can heal. I try and get away from the Death Knight so I don't get cleaved down. I'm still trying to figure out what's the best target in this matchup, because I was thinking I could basically kill anything. But here's Power Infusion. And here is Abomination's Limb. This time around, we purged the Power Infusion, which is going to be very important. But even still, having purged it, I think that this ends up being a very scary situation. I'm trying to play aggressive, but then the Priest just flies up into the air. Can't really do too much. Death Knight's going to keep pulling me in, and not like I can fly myself. So I try and intervene back to my Shaman and start to avoid the fight, but I'm still at half health, and I just get absolutely cranked towards the end of this. Like, I don't even understand this damage. The Priest was still in the sky. Death Knight is just absolutely demolishing me at the moment, and now with a stun onto my healer, even though they've trinketed, they don't have a lot of options. I try and leap away from the Death Knight, anticipating a huge amount of damage because we just experienced a lot right off the bat. So I'm using my mobility basically to run away. As soon as the Death Knight gets close to me, it might look like I'm charging in, but I'm actually charging away from the Death Knight by charging to the Priest. I'm just trying to buy my healer some time to breathe and to relax a little bit because the pressure had been so high throughout that. Now their cooldowns are over. I want to start getting aggressive on the Priest, but I'm going to have that tough call of, do I go around the corner with this Death Knight, because it's been really rough anytime I've tried to do something, or do I just attack the Death Knight? In this position, I don't really have a choice, having gotten rooted there by the Ventir proc at low health, so I'm just going to attack the Death Knight, try and keep him at bay, try and cleave down 2 targets, but then my healer gets interrupted, and in just one pet interrupt, just one little pet kick, I just get dropped, and I've got no options. No Die by the Sword, no Rallying Cry, those aren't off cooldown yet, and it seems like Death Knight, the Unholy Death Knight, has their cooldowns much more frequently than a lot of other classes, and because Dampening is able to start so high, their sustained damage, which is actually pretty decent, is going to feel impactful in the match overall. Bringing in a Holy Priest, getting aggressive and doing damage to me as well, really enabled the Death Knight. But we're watching this back at half speed, so it might not even look like I died that fast, but that's at half speed. If you watch that at max speed, it was pretty much just a yo-yo up and down constantly and very stressful. Made me think Unholy Deathknight was good. Now maybe it's just this one guy. I'm not sure, because this is the first one I've seen, and I was actually just like pretty seriously impressed with what it was able to do. We haven't seen any changes for Death Knight in patch 9.1.5 in terms of buffs, but it might be one worth trying at least here. Frost Death Knight's still doing pretty good, but it was the Unholy one that was really grabbing my attention. Now we also see Warlock's Dark Souls not being able to be purged, so I do wonder if it would be possible in 3v3 to bring back the old Shadow Cleave to comp we haven't seen really since maybe Cataclysm was the last time we saw Death Knight, a Warlock with any sort of relevance. But now with the Dark Soul being unpurgeable, adding a huge sustained damage and bringing in Unholy Deathknight for huge sustained damage. It's a comp that I would like to try, or maybe you might be curious in trying moving into the next patch. There are some hybrids having their healing reduced as well. I think Feral in particular is getting its healing adjusted a bit in 9.1.5, so perhaps there's some opportunity for some sustained damage, some rot comps. That's what I really hope for, at least with 9.1.5, is a little bit of meta change, more sustained comps, less of this kind of whack-a-mole one-shots. I want to go back to kind of just, overwhelming people with pressure, maximizing your damage, maintaining your rotation, maintaining your uptime, and having that matter a bit more than just lining up that one-shot cooldown moment, and get a little bit of more diversity and strategy. At least those are my hopes. But this Death Knight impressed me. I don't know if he impressed you, but either way, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave it with a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts about what you're going to be checking out with 9.1.5. And other than that, if you'd like to catch me live, twitch.tv/Supatease. I'm currently doing viewer games at around 11 a.m. PST in the morning. So if you'd like to just play with me, or you'd like to try and get some rating, don't generally discriminate as long as I think that the comp is going to work in 2v2. If your item level's low but your aim is low, like you want to try and get to 1400 or something, we can try and make that work as well. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.